Thank you, Minister. I'm going to give you a few questions and I'm going to give you time then to respond at the end. Look, Minister, this debate is sadly an issue in relation to trust. And in the week that we're debating the ownership structure of the National Maternity Hospital, we had the Minister for Children, Minister O'Gorman, last Tuesday offering a formal apology on behalf of the state for the deep hurt and anguish experienced by people whose births were illegally registered during the introduction of the Birth and Information Tracing Bill, legislation to rectify the issue of illegal birth registrations. And Minister O'Gorman said, "Nothing in these measures can undo the past and fully right the wrongs that these people have experienced." And herein, Minister, lies the problem that's before us. Many people feel that any link between the new hospital and the church, albeit through a private company, is a grave insult to the many victims of the church, with particular emphasis on those impacted by the Magdalene laundries and the mother and baby homes. In reality, the nuns have passed the ownership to a company established by the church. This company will have 3 representatives on the board of the National Maternity Hospital, and people believe that this is a very strong link between the nuns and the ownership and governance of the National Maternity Hospital. In fact, this very concern was expressed by the members of the HSE board, that boards can influence the culture, values and ethics. And to address this, we have a proposed golden chair to be held by the Minister. Now, the golden chair allows the Minister to direct the board to allow relevant, lawfully permissible services without religious ethos or other distinction. But, Minister, the difficulty is that we have a very poor history in this country in relation to the operation and use of golden chairs. If we look to the Sugar Act of 1991 in relation to the Golden Chair in Green Corp, the Golden Chair was not worth the paper it was written on when it came to the abolition of the sugar quota. In relation to the Golden Chair or the Class B shares that are held in Aer Lingus to protect the connectivity between Ireland and Heathrow, that will expire this September. And my question to you, Minister, is why will this particular golden chair be different, and how will it be enforced when we have such a poor record of enforcement? Now, Minister, I've asked the Library and Research Service to look at this issue of the golden chair for me, and they've provided me with a paper and said that the EU position in relation to golden chairs and foreign direct investment has changed as a result of COVID-19, and that Member States can in some cases have rights that would enable the state to block or set limits to certain types of investments in companies. And the paper goes on to say that while the guidance is directed at foreign direct investment, the general principle of the right or duty of an EU member state to safeguard essential assets such as healthcare could be read far more broadly. And that is the case in terms of assets. But we're not talking about assets here in this case. And I asked the Library and Research Service, could they find any example anywhere in Europe where we have a golden chair in relation to the provision of healthcare services as is being proposed here? And the Library and Research Service couldn't find any example of that. Minister, can you give me an example of where such a legal provision in relation to a golden chair is in operation anywhere else, and where it has actually been enforced? Now, the concern, Minister, around a lot of this debate is in relation to this phrase, clinically appropriate. And it's referenced twice in the constitution of the new company. And it's also in the operating licence that will be issued. But it's not in the clause of your golden chair. And I think, Minister, if you were to replace the phrase clinically appropriate with a separate phrase that is actually in your own golden chair, and that is that replace clinically appropriate with the words any maternity, gynecological, obstetric or neonatal service which are lawfully available in the state shall be available in the new National Maternity Hospital. That would overcome a lot of the concerns that we have here. And can I ask you, Minister, that if clinically appropriate does not include that phrase in terms of the broad range of maternity services, why then is it written in your golden chair, and why is there a contradiction in terms of what is provided for in the golden chair and what is being provided for in the constitution of the company and in the operating licence? And if you could address that for me. Minister, the reality is that we do need a new national maternity hospital. We need a new national maternity hospital as quickly as is possible. And the current facilities are completely unacceptable for women today. But, Minister, we need to see a review and address the genuine concerns that have been raised by people. And I think with small changes, particularly in relation to this issue of clinically appropriate, I think we can provide some clarity and reassurance that I think is needed. Thank you.
Thank you, Deputy. Next is the government.
No. Minister, to respond.
Now the Minister. Excuse me, Minister.
And can I thank the Deputy for his contribution and for his questions. The Golden Chair is a name attaching to ministerial powers, right? And the Golden Chair from many years ago was a name attaching to different powers. They just happen to have been called the same thing. I think what matters to us is what are the ministerial powers here? And there are two very significant ones. The first is that the reserved powers of the new hospital, which are essentially the things that the new hospital does, those reserved powers can only be changed with the unanimous agreement of the board and the agreement of the Minister for Health. And it's those reserved powers that are so important, because they are the powers around providing all services, and doing so without any religious ethos. So it's really important that no such change can be made without both the unanimous agreement of the board and the agreement of the Minister for Health. And then the second power is a power around being able to directly intervene. It's a really important one. It's clause 9.1 or 911. And it talks about the directors of the duty, and the duties of the director, I beg your pardon, of the directors. And one of their duties is, so I'll quote it now, is to carry out any direction of the Minister, including in writing, at his or her sole discretion, including to ensure, and this is right to the heart of the debate, including to ensure that any maternity, gynecological, obstetrical or neonatal service which is lawfully permissible in the state shall be available. And it's such an important, it's not may be available, shall be available in the hospital without religious ethos or ethnic or other distinction. And then it goes on to say, and for the avoidance of doubt, the directors shall be obliged to comply with any such direction. So it's a really important, the ministerial power here is really important, because essentially what it says is the board of directors, even if they were to agree unanimously, do not have the ability to change the purpose of the hospital and the obligations on them. And secondly, if somehow, and I'll finish on this, I beg your pardon, Gerlich, if somehow the board of directors failed in their duties, and somehow all of these amazing clinicians in Holles Street stopped providing the services they provide, if somehow that happened in the future, the Minister can directly intervene and instruct the hospital to provide all services and to do so without any religious ethos.